we were offered to come into CIAA Tech Summit and to just show what Dope Nerds has, not only on a VR side for entertainment and gaming and being social, but also educating anybody that kind of stepped through our booth on how Dope Nerds plans to leverage that technology in order to teach aspiring techies 18 to 24 how to get into the tech industry.
Good morning. It is Wednesday, July 27th, 2022. This morning, the future of Black news, a different news experience. Wearable technologies are fast becoming a consumer product and mainstream reality. They are constantly being developed. These new emerging technologies are trying to encourage the public to engage with professional media more so than ever before. The industry is suffering from reduced audiences and failing profits, but wearable technology and handheld devices provide a good solution to improving this. Now, some outlets like the Baltimore Times, Houston Forward Times, and others are betting that it is the future. They believe in something called adaptive journalism, looking at how they can seamlessly translate the content experience across any device the user is on. This morning, we will discuss with Ursula Spencer, the founder of Dope Nerds, LaKisha Greenwade, the founder of Wearable Tech Ventures and creator of the Global Hackathon 2022 for Wearable Technology, and also DaNeisha Totally Randie Bell, the media personality of the Houston Forward Times, will join us. But first, let's start with Paris Brown, the associate editor of the Baltimore Times. Good morning, Paris.
Good morning, good morning, good morning.
Good to see you. Paris, tell us about how the Baltimore Times got involved with the wearable technologies and this really exciting way of looking at news, and why did it make sense?
So so first of all, let me just start with what's happening in Baltimore. So Baltimore, I sat on the consumer committee for Upsurge. So the goal of Upsurge is to create the #1 equitech city here in the United States. And so a diverse also. And so I had an opportunity to meet with a lot of tech founders and be a part of a cohort or a collective where we began to look at how technology can improve the lives of Baltimore City residents. And so I started a consumer shopping network, a streaming shopping network, and met LaKisha along with other tech founders here in Baltimore. And I mean, when I say there are hundreds of them, and they are making Baltimore the home for tech founders in terms of not only space, but the necessary what we call technical assistance and working for funding. So that's how I met LaKisha. And then, of course, my interest began to grow with the company, the tech company I created as tech founder. And of course, CIAA was here, was a part of the Tech Summit. And that is where I met Dope Nerds. But how we became involved, I mean, that was just the beginning. The Baltimore Times was approached to be a media partner for Wearable Technology. And so we thought, okay, great. One of the things we love doing is amplifying the voices. There are a lot of Black tech founders that really just don't get the tech recognition. And when you look at how it improves the quality of life, and of course, our panelists will share some of the things that, how they do that. We wanted to make sure that people knew what was happening right here in Baltimore, but amongst Black techs. And so the Baltimore Times wanted to amplify that. And then we were asked to participate as a virtual newsroom. So in terms of, we didn't know what to expect, but we did have the expectation that participating in this would create a interesting news experience, an engaging one, but more importantly, one in which the participant, right, becomes part of this immersive story and somehow changes the end of the narrative, right? And so, so that's how we got involved. Of course, you know, it's going on this week, and we'll hear more from our panelists.
Yeah, well, let's bring on Ursula Spencer, the founder of Dope Nerds, LaKisha Greenwade, the founder of Wearable Tech Ventures, and she's also creator of the Global Hackathon 2022 for wearable technologies. And of course, DaNeisha, totally Randie Bell, the media personality of the Houston Forward Times. Good morning, all.
Good morning.
Good morning. Happy Wednesday.
So, look, LaKisha and Ursula. Well, let's start with Ursula first. Ursula, we heard Paris Brown. Tell us more too about how this wearable technology is really going to transform, especially us here in the Black press, how we do Black news, how we do news.
That's a fantastic question. First, thank you for having me and be a part of this panel. There's so many facets to how it's going to innovate and has innovate the industry and across multiple industries. And that is, yes, now we're all familiar with the headsets, right? And I actually have one with me. So this is one type of headset where you're fully immersed into the experience. So that's the first part of sort of this innovation and evolution, if you would, in media in general, and that now you're fully immersed into a conversation, no distractions. So that already is a huge win. What's also happening is right now we're in this headset phase, but soon I'm betting, mark my words, we'll soon be at a point where we're either projecting something, speaking of wearables, something off of our arm and a screen pops up. It's already happening where gloves are, being able to, or just your hands are able to kind of move things about in a virtual environment. So I just think that it just is going to create, especially in the wake of COVID, right? Even a more social component and a more immersive component to how we interact with the news and just media in general.
Yeah, and LaKisha, when we think of, we just want this to be a discussion in which we all understand what's going on, because a lot of us are just not. We talk about nerds, dope nerds, but we're just nerds. We don't know this stuff. So when you talk about wearables, somebody like myself would say, okay, wearables, pair of pants, shirt. Explain to us about wearables and why that is so important. I want to say your colleague. She's not your colleague, but and as far as in the tech industry, she's a colleague in the tech industry. Ursula just explained that, but give us a breakdown on wearables as far as how it fits in with news, and how can we really, how do you foresee people embracing this, the news media in particular embracing this?
Absolutely. So today you have visuals of what we call virtual reality and with the glasses. And what we do at Wearable Tech Ventures, I'm actually one of the few wearable tech experts in the world. So what we do at Wearable Tech Ventures is we develop and promote wearable technology, and we have a focus of supporting 100 startups by 2030. And so these startups are going to be led by underrepresented founders. And one of the things we've been doing this year in particular is redefining what wearable technology is. Many people, when they think of wearable technology, they think of a device that is worn on your wrist or something that is used to only track your steps. But we actually use wearable technology every day. Do you know someone with diabetes? Do you know a type 1 diabetic? If they have a pump, that's wearable technology. Do you know someone that may be facing kidney failure? They may be using wearable technology for their treatment. Do you know someone with heart failure? Do they have a defibrillator? That's wearable technology. So this is incredibly important when we talk to the Black community in particular, because there are so many devices that we use every day. There's devices that are being developed for players in the NFL. And then there's even immersive experiences that are expanding outside of health, outside of everyday working out, but even employee safety. If you know someone that works in a manufacturing environment, typically they're wearing an exoskeleton so that they can make sure that they don't get injured, and also to help with efficiency in the workplace. So ultimately what we're saying is that the Black community needs to pay attention, because we are most impacted by these technologies that are being developed. And we want to move from a consumer perspective to a developer perspective. And with that being said, we have developed the official ecosystem, the global ecosystem for wearable technology. And what that means is, in plain language, we became the industry. So we became that center point that is developing talent, that's supporting founders, that's developing direct connections to corporations, to government institutions, to research institutions, and then also to funding. So we're saying there, by the end of the day, that headline that we often hear now as it relates to lack of funding and lack of representation, that won't exist in wearable technology. Number one, because we have the pipeline of talent and we have the support. And by the way, our advisory board represents at least 80% of wearables that are distributed throughout the world. So long term, the goal is to make sure that we don't have those same headlines, and we're going to hack the system as it relates to this funding by showing our founders alternative ways to get their funding and also ultimately build wealth. That's what we're doing. This is why it's important.
Yeah, I'm going to get to a question from David Youngblood shortly. Welcome back, David Youngblood. But to your point, if you watch sports, for instance, I'm a sports fan. I watch baseball and basketball, football. Watching baseball, where in the past, up until maybe the last year and a half, the catcher would communicate with the pitcher by using what they call signs. You put down number 1 for a fastball, number 2 for a curveball, or whatever. Now they have this. The pitcher wears this device in his hat, and the catcher has a device on his knee pads, and they are communicating that way. So I guess that's wearable technology, right?
It is. It is. It is.
Wow.
So it's so vast, and so many industries are taking up on it. Absolutely. And just a little known fact, in the future, we're predicting that most companies are going to need some form of wearable technology on their balance sheet in order to be profitable. That's why they need to work with us.
Yeah. Well, DaNeisha, totally Randie Bell. I love that. Totally Randie. Houston 4 times. You guys are involved in this as well. You're getting involved in it at least. Tell us about the benefits that you see from wearable technologies as it pertains to delivering news.
That's right. Well, Stacey, you go to Pew Research, right? And they say that 86% of Americans get their news from online. And I'm going to go a little bit deeper and say they get it from Twitter, because Twitter hit news first and it hits fast. And I love what LaKisha said about, in a couple of years, you're going to see that they're going to need wearable technology, because wearable technology is just the source that you get your news from. So media being injected into that, I can see things being breaking news coming out in the VR. You have breaking news, exclusivity, any type of exclusive news coming out in VR. And so we're just kind of really seeing that trend go that way. And what I'm excited about, like what LaKisha has been talking about, Paris, and the rest of the panelists have been talking about, is that, we're not going to have a learning curve for Black society, for the Black community. There's not going to be a learning curve, because we have these resources that are trying to assist, not trying, they are assisting with educating the Black community to keep us up with that technology. And not only educating, but being a part of creativity when it comes to VR and AR, augmented reality. So, and we already have those resources. So the technology is here. Media is going to just step in and basically just keep going further with them seeing that 86% of Americans get their news from online. So we're going to have to be in that space providing that, because we're already, like LaKisha said, wearing that technology.
Yeah. Well, and your point is well taken, because you go back, I go back 90s, 80s, or whatever, but 90s when the internet started out to become a thing. I mean, it wasn't as popular, certainly, as it became, but newspapers at the time, and just about every newspaper exec in the world, right, Paris, will admit, we missed the boat. And so now we've advanced, like DaNeisha brought out with Twitter jumping ahead of everyone. We've advanced to online. We don't want to miss this, right, Paris? We don't want to miss this.
We don't want to miss it. And so that was part of partnering with Wearable Ventures to explore this, right, to experiment. And we know that this is not new. You can Google and see that some of your larger media outlets have been doing this already. And so we felt that this was a great entry. And of course, I wanted to bring other Black media colleagues along for this experience. And we're so excited because as we move forward, we'll be working with LaKisha on what does the future of the news looks like. And so we will have a track where we will begin to explore the technology and how we can integrate it into our news delivery.
Yeah, Ursula, I want to go to you. Obviously, LaKisha can answer this question too, but let me just throw this out to David Youngblood. Says, where is the entry point for non-tech investors and entrepreneurs?
That's a good question. I can answer from the entrepreneur side, right? We were talking pre-show. I'm a self-taught engineer and technologist, but I'm not the only unicorn. Certainly not in our community. There are other unicorns. There are other self-taught folks that are interested in tech. So I kind of feel like even if you have an inkling of an interest in any component of tech, that you should, especially in this age of information, to your point about how, to your point, Stacey, about how the 90s bubble, we did miss the boat. We have an insane opportunity now to not miss that boat again. There's access to all of this information and knowledge around the different areas of tech, especially the evolution of it with wearable tech, VR, NFTs, etc., that you can now be fully immersed into and get full knowledge and become a subject knowledge expert in that area, and then nurture that into an entrepreneurship, some type of business, some type of consulting. So in my humble opinion, the future is bright for us, but we have to seize the opportunity.
Yeah, and let me, ladies, let me just throw this out there too. And just one other question from David Youngblood. He writes in that he says he missed crypto. So where is the new opportunity in wearables?
Oh my gosh, there's so much. We actually have a founder that we featured on our podcast, Wearable Takeover, that's incorporating fintech also with wearable technology. And we have a workshop that's being loaded today on our YouTube channel. But getting back to that investment piece, yes, one of the entry points definitely is Wearable Tech Ventures. So for instance, if you're a small business owner and you are seeking an opportunity to incorporate tech because that may not be your main vein, you could come to Wearable Tech Ventures, and as we do this virtual hackathon, you can sponsor a track or work with our talent that is going through the process to recruit those to work with you. But also from an investment perspective, by the way, we have one of the first Black women to raise $1 million for a tech startup on our advisory board. So we understand, number one, what it's like to go through the process of being a startup, seeking funding, but then also achieving that official unicorn status with raising funds. So we have tracks and we have opportunities on our website for those that are interested in learning what does it mean to be an angel investor, so that you can work with us so we can introduce some of these startups to you. One of the other little known facts in tech is that those that have the opportunity historically to invest in tech startups have been in small circles. You have to be invited. Here at Wearable Tech Ventures, we are opening the field. So we're sharing these startups with you so that you have an opportunity to gain early entry, to build a relationship with these founders, to invest in them as an angel investor, and ultimately grow that relationship so that you can become one of their lead investors for their seed or their Series A. So we're changing the game in that entire dynamic.
Yeah. So DaNeisha, oh no, go ahead. Go ahead.
Before I just wanted to hop in because that was so important what LaKisha said, and as a matter of fact, the person that I'm interviewing for the hackathon is also a digital creator, and so I think that the presence of the media, especially the Black press, is very important to not only getting these type of resources out to our community, but we have an opportunity to amplify the voice of those creators and bring them into a space, because a lot of times they're by themselves. This guy that I'm interviewing today in the hackathon, he's by himself as a creator. He's been interviewed by all of the big companies, Google, Facebook, all of the big companies, but his design and his creations, they're wanting him to sell pieces of it, and so he doesn't even have a community where he can just come in and share, just share those resources, share those innovative thoughts, like just kind of and gain from them. So with media introducing those types of creators to LaKisha and others out there that have these resources is very, very paramount. You know, hackathon is very, very important, and we have to, like they said, we have an opportunity to really to make this a very, very big event for those out there that are searching for a community of creators in technology, period.
Yeah. And by the way, hackathon is going on right as we speak, right?
Yes, absolutely. So for those, if you missed registration, what we did is we made it open to you. All you have to do is go to YouTube, look for the Wearable Tech Ventures page, and there you will find some of our technical workshops led by our advisors. Also, we created a virtual newsroom specifically for this experience. And so, of course, with the Baltimore Times hosting, the Forward Times hosting today, so we're changing the game on the way that everything's delivered. And for those that may have heard of the metaverse, you actually get to experience it when we host and curate those interviews with our partners.
Paris, let me ask you, you said you spoke, you and DaNeisha have spoken about this. Obviously, when you speak to other publishers, we know, let's be real, as they say, keep it real. A lot of publishers, not just in the Black press, but everywhere, they have been reluctant to change. They've been reluctant to digital. Some
Right.
even got spooked by Zoom. So how do you convince them? How do you convince them, A, that this is the way to go, and B, what's been the reception?
Well, first of all, I think that either we are going to change or they will be changed by virtue of the environment. I, as associate publisher, when I took over, leading the digital transformation at the Baltimore Times, and I can tell you, just understanding your audience, we understood that 60% of our viewers viewed on our digital platform, they look at it on their phone, right? And so we couldn't ignore that. And once we did that transformation and made our website mobile friendly, we picked up 50,000 viewers in 1 month. Right. So that in itself, I don't think I need to say more in terms of how important it is for digital.
But have they embraced it, Paris? Are you finding that there's any pushback at all, or are they just saying, you know what, we've been striking out by doing it the old way, we're embracing wearables?
Well, I have to admit, we haven't really had that conversation. I think in attending the conference, I can see that there was some reluctancy. Let me say that. Because even when we talked about our campaign, the voter campaign, and I had to keep pushing that, the social media, the digital. And so I think that we do have to get to a point where we can embrace it. What does that process look like? I'm not sure. But I do want to bring up one point that DaNeisha had brought up, and that is intellectual property. As it relates to these Black founders and them wanting to sell parts. And one of the things that LaKisha is doing, and I appreciate, is this holistic approach to the founders, to the technical experience. And I'd like her to talk a little bit about that, because sometimes our businesses are stolen right from under us. So if she can address that also, that would be great.
Absolutely. So we've been a partner and worked with USPTO, United States Patent and Trademark Office, and we've participated in a number of their invention cons. And basically, that's a platform where folks that are interested in inventing or innovating can go and understand the process to obtaining a trademark, a patent, as Ursula, she has as well. And so it's important for us to be the sounding alarm, one, to inform founders that this process is necessary, to help them understand what a provisional patent is, meaning that initial process that you could file before you finish your idea, to make sure that you have it cemented in stone, or that you have that ownership. But then also, we're kind of like a watchdog. So if we see something that's happening with major institutions, or if people are coming into our HBCUs and trying to partner, and they really don't have the best interest of the student or the founder in mind, we're going to say something. We are going to say something to say, hey, wait a minute, your IP is at stake. We want to make sure, and considering that we are in Baltimore, we're based in Baltimore, people know the story of Henrietta Lacks, right? Her cells were taken from her body, and they've made billions of dollars for many corporations. We don't want that to be the story for our tech founders. So we're taking that stance to make sure that they have the holistic education, as Paris has said. Ursula's doing, her job. DaNeisha's doing her job, because it can be overwhelming. It can be overwhelming when you start this process. So that's why it's important that we host experiences like this, which are free, and that we have partners such as all of you, so that we can help demystify this process, break it down, and be patient. And the beautiful thing is we're doing it in a way that works for us. Many other people haven't done that, and we know what we need.
Yeah, how about that? Bobby Henry, the publisher of the West Side Gazette, writes in that I used to be afraid. Now I know I can't break it. I just have to be mindful that once you hit the button, it's out there. And
Right.
Ursula, to what extent is Silicon Valley putting their dollars in Black-owned tech like you guys? That's again a question from David Youngblood.
They aren't.
Plain and simple.
They are. We had this, and I've been known not to necessarily mince my words, but they just aren't, right? We were having this chat, and that I believe one of the panelists quoted that there are billions of dollars that get poured into sort of VC or just monies available for tech startups, but we at this point barely even get 1% of that. It's not only as Black and brown, but especially as a woman, it's been a challenge. A woman in tech has been a challenge to kind of get Silicon, I'm putting air quotes up, Silicon Valley on board. However, knowing that stigma or that adversity exists, it doesn't matter for us. We're still gonna, we're the community that keeps on trucking, right? We find other ways, and we know as entrepreneurs and business people that bootstrapping is not necessarily the way to go. However, as one of your audience member mentioned, you kind of, when you push the button, it's out there. So you just have to continuously keep pushing and keep pushing sort of that boulder up the hill. And then people will join on. The other component is just finding unique ways to fund your business. So that might be through angel investing, or perhaps that's through crowdfunding. But you just have to kind of keep trucking along. That it's a huge issue, and it's a shame that in 2022, in the age of advanced and innovative tech, that we're even still having the conversation.
Well, we certainly appreciate all this valuable information. Hopefully, folks will embrace it, and we certainly would appreciate you guys share this broadcast, because they've given us just some great information. Ursula and LaKisha, first let's start with LaKisha. LaKisha, just briefly tell us about your company, and then we will ask the same of Ursula.
Absolutely. So Wearable Tech Ventures is the official ecosystem for wearable technology. So what that means is we're not just coming to the market with one product. What we're saying is we are the hub for wearable technology that is developed by underrepresented founders. So we have an ecosystem of founders such as like Ursula. We have founders that are in Tennessee that have been developing apps. We have founders that are in Brazil, founders that are in Sweden that fall under this particular umbrella. And so ultimately our goal is to develop products with a purpose. So no gimmicks here, but then also to make sure that we're developing that pipeline with organizations and companies to, again, eradicate a lot of those errors that we've seen historically with funding. So we thank the Boeing Company for being our diamond sponsor. We also thank our other corporate partners, such as Under Armour, such as Deloitte, such as Wells Fargo, that are coming to the table so that we can introduce in early stages these particular companies, the founders, and then also investors that we have vetted, because we don't believe every investor belongs at the table, but we have vetted those investors to make sure that we change the game for all of us.
Yeah, thanks, LaKisha. And Ursula, tell us a little bit about Dope Nerds.
Sure. Dope Nerds, thanks to our revolutionary and innovative technology in leveraging VR, we're able to bring VR experiences to our clients in not only gaming, but education, or what we at Dope Nerds like to say, Dope Nerds Edutainment. And that's kind of spinning education on its head and making it fun, right? Or kind of removing the stigma about learning anything is boring. So we're striving to be the premier national distributor for VR content for gaming and education, and getting it into the schools for the VR education component, where we have actually created a STEM-based program and curriculum that can be sort of chameleonized and inserted into any school's current curriculum as part of their after-school program, as well as we provide content in the spaces of science, history, and geography. So our goal is really to inspire the middle school and high school students that if they didn't consider a career in tech, that once they've engaged with Dope Nerds, now they might.
Oh, fantastic. And real quick, DaNeisha, totally Randie, Bell, and Paris Brown. I'll start with DaNeisha. A question from Michelle Madison. I think it's an important question. Are advertisers and sponsors who traditionally spend dollars with newspapers and other media outlets willing to embrace and support this technology?
That's a good question. Paris, you could go first.
It's a good question. What I can say is that, and this is a recent research I literally looked at about a couple of days ago. One thing they are embracing is more video, right? And so, and more video where there's interaction, where there's engagement. Let's put it that way. Everyone's looking for engagement, and so. I would say that would be something that would be coming. And when I talked about that research, the research specifically related to advertising. So yes, I can see where that would be an increasing interest because it would include engagement.
Right. And I'm going to give some hard truth here. Advertisers, they throw money at numbers. And so that's why it was important what Paris said about, video. Video is king. It's just where we are. And short video. We came out with those long 10-minute lives and things of that sort. We came out with 3-minute reels, and then all of a sudden you're seeing that most of the reels that are promoted, they're pushed, they're boosted. The algorithm, right? Push them. They're short. They're 15 seconds. So, video is king. And the biggest thing, and this is kind of just not to go back, but when we were at the annual conference for the Black press, I was really pushing to the chairwoman, Karen Carter Richards. Hey, let's do this social media cafe, because you would be so surprised that there are some Black press, I'm talking 47, 87, 100 years, that do not have a presence on social media. And so, when you think about that and you're thinking about advertisers just, putting money into the Black press and publications that are pushing wearable tech, like, you have to have that presence. Like, we have some work to do. We have some work to do. We have to have that presence. We have to bring that up. We have to get that digital marketing piece. We have to get that video piece. And then once we're there, then of course advertisers want to throw money there, because that's where we're headed. So yeah.
Great. Well, Ursula Spencer, the founder of Dope Nerds, LaKisha Greenwade, the founder of Wearable Tech Ventures and the creator of the Global Hackathon 2022 for Wearable Technology, which is going on as we speak. We thank you so much for bringing this valuable information. We thank Paris Brown, the associate editor of the Baltimore Times, and of course, DaNeisha, totally Randie Bell, the media personality for the Houston Forward Times. We thank you. And as James Wright of the Washington Informer writes in, it's good to see sisters as part of the future of technology. I guess we can leave it there because James has the last word. That was so great. Yes, it is good to see. And thank you so much for joining. Let it be known. We will see you tomorrow.
Thank you.